The greatest direct sequels to slasher movies all time. Psycho 2, Scream 2, Halloween 2, Child's Play 2. Hey guys, welcome back to my Child's Play review series. In the first video, I talked about how much I love that first Child's Play movie, that I consider it a classic and it is near and dear to my heart. To which a lot of you are like, cool story, bro. I prefer Child's Play 2. And you know what? I get it. This is a bigger, badder, meaner iteration that continues the story, continues some arcs, introduces new fan favorite characters like Kyle, ups the ante with the kills, and cements Charles Lee Ray as a horror icon. This is a goddamn great horror sequel. This is how you do it, folks. Let's talk about why you guys love Child's Play 2 so much and why I love Child's Play 2 so much. Well, it starts from the get-go. Right out of the gate, this thing is firing on all cylinders because even in the exposition, we are expanding the lore and the tragic mythos of the Child's Play world when we find out that since the first movie, Andy has been separated from his mother. She has lost custody of him because of the events of the first film and her talking about this killer doll and the things she has witnessed, and she has been institutionalized. That is morose, that is dark, it is tragic, especially for such a sweetheart of a woman that we really grew to love in the first film. A woman who we really rooted for. I talked about in my last video that really always works. And it's one of the best aspects of the first film is the relationship between Andy and his mother, Karen, that they are each other's worlds and she would do anything for him. She just wanted to be the best mom possible. Here we are talking about a single mother with very little income, and she just wants to give Andy the best birthday possible. So she scraps her money together, she gets creative, and she finds a way to grant his biggest birthday wish by getting him a good guy doll, and their lives would never be the same. It's tragic, it's sad, it's a gut punch. But it's great storytelling, and it's something I would say a par above some of the other slashers. And you look at the heart and the story of this franchise in its first few entries. Speaking of Andy, Alex Vincent is back, and in 2 years, wow, did his acting chops get stronger. I mean, I defended him in the last video. I talked about how you guys are sometimes way too cruel to child actors. But you know what? As much as his performance works for me in this sweet, all shucks little boy type of way in the first film, he's so much better in this movie. He has such presence. There's a maturity about him. He just seems comfortable in front of the camera, and he really holds his own anytime he is across from the Chucky doll. And speaking of that Chucky doll, so much about this movie cements Charles Lee Ray as a horror icon.
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
Puts him up there with the Michael Myers, with the Jason Voorhees, with the Freddy Kruegers, with the Ghostface and the Leatherface of the horror universe, if you will. Because in this movie, he looks way better. The doll looks fantastic in this. And shout out to the special effects and the props team, the cause, everybody who came together as a creative force and brought this picture to life, because it looks fantastic. It is such an upgrade from the first film, and I have a lot of kind of things to say about the first film. Chucky has way more face time in this movie, and right off the bat, because we don't have to do the whole thing of what's going on here. Is this kind of a psychologically troubled child? Is he being framed by a doll? When will the doll come to life? And then somewhere in the second act, the head snaps around, the doll reveals himself to be possessed by the serial killer, as we all presumed, and then we can get on with our lives. We don't have to do that type of setup anymore. We can just jump right into it, and that really is one of the best things about a sequel, is it not? That we can kind of cut off some of the fat and just come to these sort of slasher franchises for the slashing, and that's what this is right away. Chucky really doubles down with his kills in here, and all the while he's starting to have a little bit more fun. This is kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, where Freddy started to become more of a pop culture phenomenon, and he really became into his own. He really started to kind of really enjoying the limelight, delivering a bunch of one-liners, things that would be quoted by fans for years and years. Chucky gets to do a little bit of that in this movie, and he throws them in there with his kills, like right here.
How's it hanging, Phil?
Aside from just the how's it hanging Phil kill, there are a bunch of really wonderful kills, some of the best in this franchise, if you ask me, in this entry. And how do you top what happens in the third act of the movie with that guy getting doll eyes pressed into his face, popping out his real eyes. That's creative, that's gruesome, and that's making the most of your killer doll property. That is exploring your concept and getting the most out of it. And this movie does that over and over again, and it does it right out of the gate, where we see them finding the remains of Chucky and trying to kind of bring him back to life. This is sort of like an anamorphic resurrection, if you will, and it's creepy and it hooks you right away, gets you into the movie. We've always seen our horror icons come back, and sometimes to very weak effect. Not so much here. You have the music playing, and it sets up the atmosphere, it sets up this tension, it sets up some intrigue, and you kind of lean in as you see them chiseling the char off the doll, almost like somebody is just working the flesh off of a corpse down to the bone. And next thing you know, Chucky is restored, and we get that much better looking doll face. Brad Dourif, of course, is always on, and he is so on in this movie. I think a lot of what people think of with Chucky comes from this movie. And so all the love to Brad Dourif, all the love to Alex Vincent, and of course we get Kyle in this movie. A fan favorite for good reason. I love to see the relationship between her and her new foster brother, Andy Barkley. That is good stuff. And she's another unheralded character, if you ask me. I feel like within the Child's Play fandom, she gets a lot of love. I would like to kind of see that kind of expand further, you know? I see you dread it. I see you online forum people always talking about underrated characters, talking about in the Halloween forums, Ellie Cornell's Rachel character and what she did for Jamie Lloyd. Kyle is that same exact character, so give her more praise, would you? And one humongous perk of this film that I would be remiss if I did not mention is the set pieces. Whether it be going into the foster home, which is a little bit uncanny, a little bit quirky in the way it is designed, but also a setting that should be a sort of veritable home turf for Andy, but is not, because he's kind of a stranger in a foreign land, if you will. He doesn't know these confines all that well, and he can't trust his foster parents all that much, just as they do not trust him. So Chucky has just as much equal footing as Andy, which we did not see in the first movie where they're in the apartment. And that kind of gave the mom and Andy some sort of solace. It allowed them to go to their safe places, if you will, and strike up a defense against Chucky. That isn't happening here. Chucky knows more than Andy, and that is riveting, and it sets up a lot of conflict. And I love the way that Chucky comes into the house, sees the Tommy doll, and then goes and buries him in the backyard. It makes for a fun reveal later in the film. And of course, if we're talking about set pieces, we're talking about locations, you have to love and remember this movie for the third act, which takes place in a good guy toy factory. We talk about making the most of your concept. That is how you do it. We go in here, and there's almost like the Shining-esque maze of good guy boxes that Kyle and Andy have to weave their way through, all while trying to evade Chucky, who is just coming at them like the mean little baby-sized Bonaducci that he is. And it allows them to get really fun and creative with it. You see them going up the inclined conveyor belt. He's stabbing at them all the while. You have all sorts of gadgets and gizmos and machines and tools whizzing about. There's danger at every turn, and it just really ups the peril. The trouble, the conflict is constantly compounding in this third act. And I think it's one of the best third acts, if not the best third act in the entire franchise, which says something, because in my last entry, I talked about how much I love the conclusion of the first Child's Play. I think this actually does it better. I think this is way more cinematic. This is way more thrilling. This is way more fun. And it just pops on the screen and you get something unexpected. This is what you have to love from this sequel, because this was not a lazy attempt. They go there. I thought for sure when I first saw this that they're going to lay Andy down and Chucky was going to start to do the incantation, the voodoo chant, and he would be interrupted like he always is. But he gets to complete it. And at first, like, what? What's going to happen here? Only to find out he is too late. And what a wonderful idea that is. What a wonderful reveal that is. Because at that point, we get the most dangerous, mean Chucky we have ever seen. Because at that point, he can throw caution and tact to the wind. He doesn't have to be clever. He doesn't have to be mastermind anymore. He can just be pissed off and be a berserker. He can come at Andy and Kyle full force with nothing to lose, because he knows he's trapped in this doll and he has all this rage towards these people who thwarted him. So much so that you get amazing little sequences where he's ripping off his own hand and shoving a knife into the bloody stump like he's Ash from the fucking Evil Dead or something. That is what I'm talking about. So this movie, you get Chucky, who has been perfected and has been improved upon so much since the first film. You have Andy with a much better acting performance. You introduce a new fun character in Kyle. You have wonderful set pieces. You have some good scares of the jump variety and of the earned, more established, set up and explored variety. And you have incredible, gruesome, nasty, gross, fucking fantastic kills. So it's no wonder a lot of you guys told me that you like this movie more than the original. I have so much reverence and respect for the original, and it made all of this possible. And I love what Tom Holland did with that movie. But the team behind this movie, they were on their A game as well. This is a goddamn amazing sequel. So if I ever did a top 10 direct sequels list, you can feel assured that you'd probably see Child's Play 2 on that list. So let me know how you feel about this movie down in the comment section. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Guys, really, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, because we're going to talk about all the Child's Play movies. And then in October, we are going to do an episode by episode recap of the new season of Chucky. And I cannot wait for that. I will see you guys then. Have yourself a great day. I'm Nate from natemareflix, and that's a wrap.